I don't know if we'll ever see these characters again, but it's time to talk about their movie. What's up guys, my name is Ryan, welcome to my channel if you're new here. So in this video, we are continuing our MCU rewatch and review series, and in this video I'll be talking about an MCU film that I was interested in revisiting and rewatching, and that is Eternals. And it is after I've watched the movie again, so as usual, just gonna jump in and start talking about it, and also as usual, spoiler alert if you have not seen the film. And unfortunately, when it comes to Eternals, it is an MCU film that I'm much more negative than positive on, but I'm going to talk about my positives and what I enjoyed and liked about the film first. First thing I really enjoyed about the film is the cast and the characters, which the film has a stacked cast. I mean, Richard Madden, Gemma Chan, Salma Hayek, Brian Tyree Henry, Barry Keoghan, Kit Harington, Angelina Jolie, just to name a few. This film is filled with great character moments, and the cast, I think, for the most part, does a pretty good job. I love being introduced to these characters, and particularly Don Lee's Gilgamesh and Angelina Jolie's Thena. I really enjoyed their relationship and seeing their care for each other. But my favorite character probably has to be Lauren Ridloff's Makkari. Personally, I just really enjoyed her character. I enjoyed her personality, and also I probably really enjoyed her character because she's a speedster. I've always had a thing for speedsters. My answer to the popular question, if you could have any superpower, what would it be, has always been super speed. I've always desired to get places and get things done super fast. I always thought it was just such a cool power, and I love seeing people being able to run real fast, and particularly with this film, Makkari, her super speed and the way they visualize it, and it just looks so cool on screen. I especially love the moment where she's fighting Icarus and coming at him from all different directions. That scene just looks super cool. And I also think it's really cool how they say that she can sense vibrations even when people are speaking. I also really enjoyed Kit Harington as Dane Whitman, which we don't get much of him in the film, but from what we do get from him, I enjoyed it. Kind of wish we got to see a bit more, but hopefully we'll see more of him in the future. I'm not exactly sure. But I love the references and teases to his comic book superhero identity of the Black Knight. I really enjoyed the post-credit scene where he's standing before his famous weapon, the Ebony Blade, and he's about to touch it, and we hear this voice off camera that we don't see say, "Are you sure you're ready for that, Mr. Whitman?" And I think they confirmed that that voice actually belonged to Mahershala Ali's Blade. So will we see Kit Harington as Black Knight in the MCU Blade film? I don't know. But for the most part, I really enjoyed the cast as these characters. I thought it was really fascinating diving into their history and learning about how there have been these eternal beings in the MCU since the beginning of planet Earth and all throughout the MCU's history, but we're just now learning about them and learning about why they didn't help fight Thanos and all that. I loved diving into how the Eternals worked. I loved diving into the Eternals' history and seeing their influence on history. They mentioned how some of the characters are inspirations for popular, like, classic myths. Like, for example, Icarus, of course, being the inspiration for Icarus, the man who flew too close to the sun, Gilgamesh being the inspiration for the Epic of Gilgamesh, and then Angelina Jolie's Thena being the inspiration for Athena, the Greek goddess of war. I thought that was really interesting and cool. I really enjoyed the flashbacks, just seeing them all together, and I really like how they really made them feel like a family, and I really enjoyed seeing the characters' interactions, and it really led to some really funny moments. The film does have that MCU humor, and you get some really funny moments in this film because of the familial feeling relationship between the Eternals, and it also leads to some pretty decently emotional moments in the film as well. I also really enjoyed just the look of the film. I think there's plenty of beautiful shots in this film, especially in the flashbacks when we see the Eternals throughout different points in history, different places and times. I love their suits, I love the designs and the colors, and I think this film has great visuals as well, especially when it comes to the Eternals' powers. I like how each Eternal has a different power set, and I really like how they visualized it, and it was just really cool seeing them use their powers, and it led to some really good, cool fight scenes, especially, once again, with Makkari. Just seeing her use her super speed and the way they visualized it, it looked so cool, and I think it's the best, like, speedster powers have ever looked in live action. Just her speedster powers looked so good in this movie. I did enjoy a decent amount about this film, but unfortunately, like I said, I have much more problems than negatives with the film, so I'm going to dive into those now. One is, I do share the common criticism I've heard for this film, which is I feel like they tried to maybe do a bit too much. They're introducing us to 10, 11 new characters if you include Kit Harington's character, and because of that, it felt like we never really got to properly know eat any one of the Eternals like the proper amount you're supposed to know a character in a film. We do spend a good amount of time with each of them, and we get some backstory for each of them, but it feels like they never really dive too deep into any single one of them, and we really got to know and grow a certain amount of care for any single one of them. We do get to know some Eternals more than others, but even then, even the much more prominent ones, I feel, we didn't get to explore them as deeply as I wanted to. Maybe there shouldn't have been 10 Eternals, maybe there should have been less, maybe it should have been a Disney Plus series, but I just felt like they were tackling a bit too much and throwing too much information, trying to introduce too many characters, too many concepts in this film. There's also a decent amount of questions this film raises, and maybe some of these they do touch upon, but they never really dive deep and give us a proper answer. For example, like with the character of Sprite, who is perpetually in the form of a child, and she continually questions, why did the Celestials make me this way? Because it prevents her from being able to have adult relationships, and she feels it prevents her from being with the man that she loves. And I think I know what they were trying to go for with her character, you know, people struggling with the fact that they were born with a certain defect or inability, but I don't think it really worked because Sprite's condition isn't exactly comparable to the conditions you would find in the real world, and like I said, they don't really dive too deep into why they made her that way. Why was she not made an adult like the rest of them? Why was she made in the form of a child? Like, why did the Celestials do that? I don't know if they were intending to answer that in a sequel or a later film, or if they were just gonna always leave that question unanswered. It just doesn't make much sense why the Celestials would make her that way, and also why they would make Makkari deaf. I just don't understand what purpose that serves, making her deaf. I did enjoy Lauren Ridloff. I'm glad they cast her. I'm glad that deaf actors and actresses are getting more work in Hollywood, but in the context of the film, it doesn't really make sense why her character is deaf. I don't understand why the Celestials would make her that way. And also, this one has to do with the post-credits scene. Arishem, the Celestial that these 10 Eternals answer to, after killing Tiamat, he summons Cersei, Phastos, and Kingo, and he's basically like, what the heck, why'd you kill Tiamat? But Druig, Makkari, and Thena, they're off on their ship, the Domo, planning to go to their planets and tell other Eternals what the real purpose is and how Celestials are birthed and it destroys planets and all that. Why aren't they summoned too? I just didn't get that. Like, can Arishem not reach that far into space? Like, I thought he was like a god. I just didn't get it. There's also some logic problems with the film, I feel. One is that we learn about Celestials and how they come into being and everything in the film, but every time I watch this film, I always think back to Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, where we're introduced to Ego, who says he's a Celestial, and the origin of how he came into being is different from what they say is normal for a Celestial in this film. Like, Ego's origins as a Celestial aren't the same as your typical Celestial like they explain in this film, and I'm just like, how does that work? How is Ego different from the other Celestials from this film? Are they gonna answer that eventually? And then also, with the character of Phastos, we see him in present day, and he has a family now, and the Eternals are trying to recruit him to help get him to save the Earth, and he has to be talked into helping to save the Earth when he has a family, which gives him more than enough reason to want to save the Earth. He should want to go off and help his fellow Eternals and save the Earth and make sure his family lives, but he has to be talked into doing that. I just don't understand. That didn't make sense. Why did he have to be talked into doing that? Once again, I just didn't get it. But my biggest problem with the film, where the film starts to lose a lot of enjoyment and what starts to take a lot of points off my overall score for the film, is I feel there's such messy morality in this film, and I do not like that. Especially when we get to the third act. On this film, we learn how Celestials come into being and their kind of life cycle and how they work. We think the Eternals are purely on Earth to help protect and guide humanity, help them grow and advance, which is part of their purpose, and to protect them from deviants. But the Eternals learn that their true purpose is to help birth the next Celestial, and apparently human life starts with the Celestials. They create the worlds and they start human life on each planet, but when they create new planets, a seed is implanted deep into the planet, And as humanity grows and advances and populates the Earth, eventually when it gets to a proper certain amount of people, it allows that seed, which apparently is a celestial, to feed off their energy, and a new celestial is able to be birthed. But in the process of that celestial being birthed, it destroys the planet and everyone's stinking on it. And then that celestial creates a new world and the process starts all over again. And so the Eternals learn that in a few days, a new celestial, Tiamat, is going to be born, but then the whole Earth is going to, everyone on Earth is going to die. And so it puts them in this moral dilemma, and they make it the main conflict of the film, the main problem that we have to solve, puts them in this situation that just leads to such messy morality, and I feel is incomparable to anything in real life. They have to choose, do we kill this newborn innocent being to save the, 7-8 billion people on Earth? Or do we let this newborn being be born, which will lead to the cycle continuing and billions of more people being born? And it just creates such a messy moral dilemma. It just creates such a messy situation where either decision they make a wrong decision and they make a right decision. Because it's wrong to kill a newborn innocent being, but it's also wrong to not save everyone on Earth. It's a lose-lose situation that you would never encounter, never find in real life. A baby being born, a newborn being coming into the world would never destroy a whole planet. And every time I watch this film, I'm just like, why would they do that? Why would they make that the main conflict of the film? Why is that the problem we need to solve? Why is that the reason the Earth needs to be saved? I really think this film needed a much better script, more work in the story department. That should not have been the dilemma, the thing our heroes are trying to save the Earth from. That's just a terrible, terrible situation. At first I didn't mind it. Like when we found out that celestials being birthed destroy whole planets, they start talking about how maybe they can just put him to sleep and find a way to move him or help him be birthed in a way that doesn't destroy the Earth. I'm like, okay, I'm still tracking with this. But even when they form the Uni-Mind and kill Tiamat as he's emerging out of the Earth, straight after that happened, I wasn't sure if they put him to sleep or if they killed him. I wasn't sure exactly which one it was. Is Tiamat dead, or is he just in this suspended animation type state and they're gonna find a way to move him out of the Earth later? But then Cersei says at the end of the film, did we do the right thing killing Tiamat? And I'm like, oh dang, okay, you killed him? That was wrong. But you saved the Earth, which is a good thing, which was the right thing to do, but it was the wrong thing to kill a newborn innocent. It's just, listen to the stuff that's coming out of my mouth. It's just so crazy and insane. When I say it out loud, it just sounds even worse. And because of the messy, questionable morality of the film, you come out of it with such a weird feeling, such a weird mix of emotions. Personally, I felt kind of icky and messy, and that's just not a feeling I want to come out of a film with. And so all of that just really takes a lot of points off the film for me. And every time I watch this film, I'm like, hopefully it's not as bad as I remember. And as the film starts off, I'm like, okay, this is much better than I remember. I'm actually really enjoying this. But then as we go along and we learn more about, and we find out that celestials being born destroy the Earth, and then all the moral dilemmas and the talk the Eternals have about, do we save the Earth, do we kill the celestial or not, just when they really start getting into the messiness of the morality and what they're supposed to do in this situation, and when they actually kill him at the end, and just every time, like the first time I saw it in theaters, I just always leave the film disappointed with such a weird, iffy feeling. I know a lot of people love this film. I've heard some people say that it's one of the best MCU films. For me personally, I'm just always so frustrated and disappointed by this film. There are some things I do enjoy, but overall, just a very disappointing, really weak Marvel film. Overall, I'd give the film a 5 out of 10 at best. But I think that's all I have to say about Eternals. Thank y'all so much for watching this video. Leave a like if you enjoyed it. And let me know down in the comments below what you think of Eternals if you have seen it. Subscribe if you enjoy my content. Check out my previous MCU review for Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. Also, if you would like to check out some more of my MCU videos, you can check out this playlist of all my MCU videos. And with that, I hope you all have a blessed one, guys. I'll catch y'all in the next video.